Tyrion Lannister, outsmarted, undervalued, unbroken, the psychology of power.
Why do you want to help him?
I have a tender spot in my heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things.
That line, soft-spoken and seemingly sentimental, is not just a quote. It is a confession, a warning, and a psychological thesis in a single breath. Tyrion Lannister is not merely a fan favorite in Game of Thrones. He is a mirror for anyone who has been dismissed, belittled, mocked, or underestimated. But what makes him psychologically profound isn't just his pain. It's what he does with it. This episode is not just about a dwarf in a cruel world. It's about a mind that weaponizes pain into power. A masterclass in strategic self-awareness. An anatomy of emotional intelligence wrapped in sarcasm. Tyrion Lannister is what happens when the world pushes someone into a corner and they decide to outthink the entire system. The outsider's mind. Tyrion was born with every imaginable advantage: noble blood, wealth, access, education. And yet he was born cursed in the eyes of his family. His mother died in childbirth. His father, Tywin, never forgave him for it. His sister, Cersei, saw him as an embarrassment. His very existence was treated as a personal offense by those closest to him. He was mocked in court, dismissed by warriors, fetishized or pitied by strangers. In the brutal hierarchy of Westeros, where masculinity, size, and strength were currency, Tyrion was bankrupt from the start. So what happens to a child who is intelligent, but constantly treated as inferior? One option is collapse. The other is transformation. Tyrion chose the latter. The mask of the jester. From a psychological standpoint, Tyrion embodies what Carl Jung might call the trickster archetype, a figure who disrupts, mocks, and reveals hidden truths through mischief. But his jokes aren't just for laughs. They are preemptive strikes. Tyrion knows people will insult him, so he insults himself first. This isn't self-loathing, it's control. He turns vulnerability into performance. Let them see that their words can't hurt me, and maybe they'll stop. But deep down, the hurt is real. Humor becomes his emotional armor. He uses sarcasm to deflect shame. He drinks to dull it. And in those rare, quiet moments, you see the cracks in the mask. The pain of knowing that no matter how smart he is, he will never be seen as enough in his father's eyes. This is what psychologists call a defense mechanism. More specifically, preemptive self-deprecation, mocking oneself before others. It protects the ego by creating the illusion of invulnerability. Weaponized intelligence, but Tyrion's power doesn't stop at deflection. He doesn't just survive, he dominates, intellectually. When others use swords, he uses strategy. When others threaten, he outsmarts. He studies people. He listens. He remembers everything. That makes him deadly in conversation and invaluable in politics. In King's Landing, a place where truth is a liability and alliances are made with smiles and daggers, Tyrion thrives. Why? Because he understands the core rule of power: control the frame. Tyrion controls conversations by choosing when to speak and when to stay silent. He redirects attacks by changing the subject or reframing an insult. He uses what psychologists call reframing, altering the context around a situation to change its meaning. When accused of being weak, he reframes himself as wise. When mocked for his size, he reframes it as freedom from traditional expectations. When dismissed by warriors, he reframes himself as a survivor who doesn't need brute force. Every time someone tries to define Tyrion, he hijacks the narrative. That is psychological power at its purest. Emotional intelligence in a world of savages, but intellect alone doesn't make Tyrion powerful. What sets him apart is emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, manage, and influence emotions. He reads people, not just their words, but their fears, insecurities, ambitions, and he responds accordingly. Take his interactions with Sansa Stark. He recognizes her trauma. He doesn't try to fix her. He respects her silence. That's empathy. That's psychological restraint. Contrast that with his enemies. Joffrey, who explodes at any insult. Cersei, who lashes out when afraid. Tywin, who controls by intimidation. Tyrion, by contrast, absorbs emotional attacks. He lets them wash over him without reaction, and then responds with precision. This gives him a terrifying advantage. He isn't just thinking 2 steps ahead. He's feeling 2 steps ahead. He knows how people want to feel, and he uses that to guide them. That is persuasion at its deepest level. Most people chase status to gain power. Tyrion flips the model. He starts from low status and uses it as camouflage. When you are seen as harmless, people reveal more around you. They underestimate you. That gives you information. And information is leverage. Tyrion uses this constantly. In conversations, he plays the fool to draw out the truth. In court, he acts indifferent to mask his calculations. In war councils, he lets others posture while he listens. This is classic misdirection. The psychological principle behind it is asymmetric perception, allowing others to reveal themselves while you reveal nothing. It's how spies operate. And Tyrion is, in many ways, a spy within his own family. The wounded healer. There's another archetype that fits Tyrion well, the wounded healer. He understands others because he understands pain. He connects to the broken because he, too, is broken. His empathy isn't performative. It's forged in trauma. When he shows kindness, it's not because he wants approval. It's because he knows what rejection feels like. This makes him dangerous in both directions. He can heal people with his insight, or he can dismantle them with brutal emotional precision. Think of his trial scene. Betrayed, enraged, no longer hiding his pain. He turns it outward like a blade. I wish I was the monster you think I am. That was not a performance. That was psychological rupture. Years of buried rage exploding into clarity. Tyrion had finally stopped pretending to be the harmless dwarf. He revealed the full power of someone who has been underestimated too long. And in that moment he shifted the frame forever. No longer the jester. Now the storm. Part 2. Tyrion's power play. How he turns pain into leverage. Tyrion Lannister didn't simply survive a hostile world. He became its most insightful tactician. But behind every clever remark, every sarcastic smile, there's something deeper happening. He's converting pain into power. This is a psychological process we can understand through the concept of transmutation, the ability to take suffering and redirect its energy into strategic advantage. Tyrion is a master at this. He doesn't run from rejection. He collects it, and he uses it. The trial that changed everything. One of the clearest examples of this transformation is Tyrion's trial in Season 4. Accused of murdering King Joffrey, a crime he didn't commit, Tyrion stands alone.
You wish to confess?
I saved you.
I saved this city and all your worthless lives. I should have let Stannis kill you all.
Tyrion,
His family condemns him. His supposed friends
do
betray
you wish
him.
to confess?
And in front of a courtroom built to humiliate him, he explodes. I saved you all your worthless lives. I should have let Stannis kill you all. This is not just emotional release. This is strategic exposure. Tyrion uses the trial, a moment of complete powerlessness, to show the rot in the system, to destroy the illusion of justice, and to finally stop pretending he's playing the game on anyone else's terms. Psychologically, this is what Viktor Frankl called the last of the human freedoms, the power to choose one as response to suffering. Tyrion doesn't beg. He doesn't justify. He reclaims his agency by embracing the monster they made him out to be and turning it against them. Strategic use of vulnerability. After his escape and murder of Tywin, Tyrion enters a new phase, exile. But exile for Tyrion is not death, it's rebirth. When Varys smuggles him to Essos, Tyrion begins observing a new game. No longer in the halls of Westerosi politics, he sees a different model of power in Daenerys Targaryen. She has dragons, followers, and a moral mission. And yet she lacks what Tyrion has in abundance: perspective. Tyrion joins her not just to survive, but to shape. He offers counsel, insight, and restraint. He sees where idealism can become tyranny. He advises Daenerys not because he believes in her blindly, but because he understands the temptation of unchecked power and the danger of believing your own mythology. This is where Tyrion's emotional intelligence becomes crucial. He begins to see how his pain mirrors hers, both rejected, both underestimated, both burdened with a need to prove themselves. And so he becomes not just her hand, but her mirror. This is key. Tyrion understands that psychological influence doesn't always come from domination. It often comes from reflection. By understanding the pain in others, he can guide them gently, subtly, but powerfully. The psychology of observation. One of Tyrion's most underrated traits is how much he listens. He observes before he speaks. In group settings, he watches body language. He studies relationships. He notices who flatters, who lies, who fears, and who desires. In psychological terms, Tyrion has high social cognition. He can read subtle cues, infer motive, and anticipate betrayal. Not because he's cynical, but because he's seen it all before. This skill becomes his edge. In a world where others act impulsively, Tyrion gathers data. Where others posture, he waits. He knows that silence can be louder than shouting, and that a well-timed word can do more damage than a sword. Tyrion doesn't just speak when he has something to say. He speaks when others need to hear something. That's the difference between talking to be heard and speaking to influence. He's mastered the latter. Tyrion's greatest weapon. Insight more than his wit, more than his books. Tyrion's true superpower is insight. Particularly, insight into human nature. He knows people want to feel important, safe, admired, righteous. And he knows how to trigger or disrupt those feelings. He flatters when needed. He insults when it will destabilize. He reveals truth selectively. This isn't manipulation in the cruel sense. It's manipulation as a surgical tool. Tyrion can reach inside someone's psyche and twist, comfort, or confront. This is why he's so dangerous. He doesn't just understand power structures. He understands people. and people ultimately are what power is made of. Why he fails, and what that reveals Tyrion is not infallible. He makes mistakes, especially in the final seasons. He misreads Daenerys. He misplaces trust. He holds on to hope where cynicism might have served him better. But even in failure, Tyrion remains psychologically fascinating, because when he's wrong, he owns it. He reflects, he adjusts. He feels the weight of his errors. This is a rare quality among powerful people, the ability to self-correct. Tyrion's arc is not about being right, it's about learning, and that makes him powerful in a different way. He evolves. He is one of the few characters who moves from self-protection to self-possession. Early Tyrion deflects pain. Later Tyrion channels it. In the end, he accepts it. That psychological journey from reaction to reflection to responsibility is what makes his character complete. Final lesson. Power through self-knowledge. In the end, Tyrion Lannister teaches us this. Power does not come from being the loudest in the room. It comes from knowing who you are in silence. He was never the strongest, the fastest, the most beloved, but he was the most conscious of his flaws, of his patterns, of his emotions, of others, and that self-knowledge, hard-earned, painful, deeply personal, became his throne. Because real power isn't about ruling others. It's about no longer being ruled by your own pain. If you found yourself in Tyrion's story, if you've ever felt underestimated, dismissed, or forced to outthink a world that didn't make room for you, then this series is for you. Hit subscribe to join us as we dive into the psychology behind the most complex minds in Westeros. Next up, Cersei Lannister, the Queen of Control. Because in the Game of Thrones, power isn't taken, it's understood.